Thank you for coming back to my channel. This one is going to be PO number 8. And in PO number 8, I'm going to be discussing the idea of the Trump's new move to have a committee of peace. And he primarily has this to solve the issue that's going on in Hamas. But he already expanded that to a situation where the world would be involved. And what we're going to be talking about now is exactly that kind of thing. And in that, what we're expanding is not only truth from fiction, which is a very competent thing that I've been doing, as anyone has been watching my videos, is I know there are things that are true and there are things that are false. And we're going to be expanding that slightly into looking into why and how people decide what they decide their thinking is. And it is an interesting aspect where many people have talked about it and explored why people make the decisions they do. And I'm going to use Hawaiian honey here a lot in this one because I've realized in my relationship with Hawaiian honey that we disagree on some basic facts and how those basic facts affect the way we act toward each other. And so what I want to do now is this fits in very nicely with what I call the political outcome of the public opinion. If enough people think one thing is true, it will affect the political outcome of the world, right, wrong, or indifferent. And so what we want to do now is to not only explore truth from fiction, but explore how people arrive at those conclusions. And what I'm going to be doing is talking about the aspect of individuals and what kind of thinking they should engage in and what kind of uh, competence their thinking is in what they are concluding. And we have a lot of situations where people believe the media expectations or the media reporting on a particular issue that is truly false. And this has happened several times over the years. It's probably going to happen many times in the future, but we need to explore how Homo sapiens, human beings, can differentiate the truth from the fiction and draw logical conclusions about information that they have or have been given. And it is going to be a little bit of an unusual experiment because we cannot identify what things are very truthful or very untruthful, that are just made up by people in order to get a result. And we've had several indications in the past where people have invented what they refer to as lie detectors. And all these lie detectors is a mechanical way or an electronic way for the people that are listening to what is being told to them to be able to assess from the electronic media that the person is telling factual information or is making up the information merely to get the reaction that he's looking for. And we have a lot of that going on recently with the argument over Trump's election and the first election that he won. There was a lot of media information put out that it was actually Russia that was influencing the American public in order to get Trump elected. Because of the political results that are happening throughout the world regarding the war in Ukraine and the problem we're having with Iran, we need to start simplifying what our thinking is and what we should be doing as a nation. And what I am going to be doing is pushing this PO series, because that's exactly what it is designed and created for, is to understand how public opinion will affect the political outcome. And if your public opinion that you have has been created as a result of a lot of misinformation, then the result you will have will not be the result that people are looking for. People want cause and effect. They want to know that certain things follow what other things have started as, and that's how they make decisions on how we continue to improve things. But when you're lost and you don't even know what the directions are, you can't find your way back from where you're lost. You're going to continued to be lost until you understand which way is north, which way is south, which one is east, and which one is west, and which direction you need to go to get back to civilization as quickly as you can. And we have even a more complicated situation here when we're talking about people's thinking. And I've done a little bit of research on it, not much, because it's very obvious that people don't know the answer. I've heard that as little as 5% of the population believing an issue can persuade the entire public to go along with what the 5% think, until they personally get disillusioned by what they're putting out. Well, what I would like to do with my videos is to figure out a way that we can teach people how to explore what you think you have concluded, and how to experiment to see if what you concluded was built on fact or whether it was built on fiction. Because it's my conclusion or understanding that people are very logical. If they have the right facts, they will come up with the right decision ultimately. Even though they're misinformed, I know with the Trump election, there is a lot of people that do not like Trump. And I don't particularly understand why they are so against a particular person and for another person. And when I ask questions about their thinking, they seem to give me information that seems to be totally false. So we want to figure out, if we can, a way that we can come up with a conclusion and then look into the conclusion that we've made to see if we've been misled. Because if you're misled and you convince other people to be misled, there's an old saying about the blind leading the blind falling into a ditch. And in reality, that is very true. If you're blind and you're leading other blind people, eventually bad things are going to happen. Well, that's not much different than there is with what the thinking is of people of a nation or a country or any other large group of people, because that are succeeding, and there are countries that seem to be not succeeding. They seem to not be able to produce as well as others. They seem not to be able to have the commercial impact of a growing economy, and the people seem to be held back And it's all mainly, as I see it, just a result of their thinking. And it is true, we've talked about the Muslims and the Islamic people and the people that believe in the Islamic religion, and that is a very large pitfall, in my opinion, because of the fact that we, as thinking, logical human beings, know there never was a human being that did anything that he was quoted to have done that was called Muhammad. That was all made up way later. There's no proof that any person even close to that ever existed. And as I'd said in my other videos, they made a critical mistake. They put him in a place that really did not exist at the time that he was supposed to have done all the things he did. That it didn't happen. And why people cannot accept that, rather than to say, well, here's an issue that may lead me to believe something that I have no basis for believing. But what I would like to do with this video is try to encourage people to have a system that they can check what they have concluded is the reality to find out if it really happened. Because I think that a lot of the misunderstanding and unwillingness to cooperate throughout the world comes from the fact that many people are only misled. They believe something that isn't true. They believe something that never happened, and they treat it as though it is factual information and needs to be built upon. Well, if it is fraud or false and you try to build on falseness, you're not going to have anything that is probably going to lead to any information that will help us, because fraud is always fraud. That means that it's people trying to persuade people to believe something for their benefit. And if they didn't have a benefit of doing that, they would have no need to convince people that this is actually what happened when nothing like that ever did happen. And as we go through exploring, is there things that we can do to explore and see if the things we believe are factual or fraudulent? And it's not going to be an easy thing to do, because when Homo sapiens make a decision that something is true, they like to believe that it's true and look for all information that shows that it is true and ignore any information that shows that it may be false. Well, following that kind of thinking, we will never come to a conclusion about what is right and wrong and what is profitable and what is not profitable, because I think that the actual factual actions of Homo sapiens prove certain results. If those results are bad, we should learn to modify our behavior so that our actions are productive. We want to be productive in what we do. We don't want to just waste our time talking against a wall that doesn't want to listen to us and come up with things that are totally a joke. And by a joke means that they never happened, they've never existed, no one ever said the things that they're reported to have said, in order to convince people that those are the things that Homo sapiens should believe. Because we should only believe, if we're talking about a government situation, what things that we have acknowledged to us as being true, and that means it was actually spoken to the leaders and they obtained this information and chose to do something with the information other than to build on it to make a better life for everyone. And I'm going to continue to try to come up with ideas that we can think about. We need to create a situation where each and every one of us can investigate the reality of what we're being taught and experience the earliest recommendations of the people that are trying to get us to believe a certain thing. And so for now, I'm going to have to move forward and talk about how we can look at what we're thinking about and how we can try to figure out what is true about our thinking and what is just made up as a result of our thinking that certain things work and certain things don't work. And the fact that I'm doing these videos, I think, is proof of the fact that certain things are not what we would say reported to as one of the media people as a result of just closing up their research on their particular situation. And this one that we currently have is the field of flowers. Now, in the field of flowers, when the bulb is put into the earth, it will sprout up and reproduce an exact thing. And we need some kind of system that is at least somewhat comparable to what the field of flowers can produce in order to know that we are on the right track and we're believing something that is in fact factual. Now we want to go forward and to communicate with many people the things that we think and the reason we do think them. But we also want to start looking at and investigating what our own actions and the results of our actions are and what led us to believe that those things are in fact factual other than from false information. Now, this is not an easy thing for us to accomplish. We're going to have to be on board with challenging ourselves to come up with something that is very relevant for people to look at what we're saying and know that we have a system that actually works. Now, that's why I'm going to be working closely with Hawaiian Honey, because as I said before, we've had some misunderstandings that are hard to identify why we don't think the same things that are true. One will think one thing is true, another one will think another thing is true. But what we have to do with this particular PO number 8 is to identify systems, and this is a personal thing that each individual is going to have to create for himself to know what he's thinking is in fact true. And we need to start listening to other people and exploring what the result of their history has been to lead to those conclusions. Because as we discuss the differences of our history, we may be able to find out exactly who went wrong and how they went wrong and drew a wrong conclusion from something that actually was not factual. Now, it's going to be difficult because history is not reported in every situation. Every human being has a different history. They all do different things at different times, and we don't have all of this actually identified with any kind of media that shows that what we're doing is in fact the factual thing. Now, I know that as we move forward, we're going to have to identify some of those areas that we have been misinformed in so that we can identify those when they happen. And as we continue to explore what we're going to do in order to make this work, we're going to have to be able to come up with something that is pretty substantial and pretty factual for everyone to use. Now, as we investigate what needs to be done, we have to have a system to analyze our thinking and our belief. And it's not an easy thing for people to do, because once you believe something, you think it is true, and it is going to be a separate issue to remind yourself that I want to explore the beliefs I have to see if they are factual or if they are come from some fictitious statement that I believed is true. And we can continue to prosper if we make the right decisions. If we make decisions based on things that are fraudulent or false, we're not going to get the results we want. So we want to be able to communicate with other people and have interactions with them, but not lock ourselves into a particular position until we explore the position of the different parties involved to get to the most factual situation that we can possibly have from the communication of all the individuals and trying to create a system of action for the future. Because if we're going to base the action do on a lie, we're not going to get the proper results. So we want to make sure that we create actions that are beneficial not only to us, but for other people as well. Because there is no secret pill that we can take and do everything good for ourselves and other people as well. We have to think about it. We have to plan ahead for it. Some people may have already started a what I'd call a business about who they entice to join with them, so they can move forward with a particular program to accomplish the things that they perceive are true and were passed down to them by other Homo sapiens, proving they are in fact true. Day and age, with AI and the computers, we all have the ability to check the facts from many sources. A lot of times it's kind of obvious that the facts are being reported are reported by someone that already has an opinion about the issue that is being reported. And a lot of times you cannot rely on those things. It is in each individual listener's responsibility to look at all of the positions of all of the sides, whether someone is for an issue, against an issue, or is neutral about the issue. The way they describe it or come up with solutions to these problems will be directly in respect to what their attitude already is about the issue. And we have to make sure that we can differentiate all of these things from reality and from fiction. And we need to be able to move forward and to explore the different outcomes that is going to be explained here in our PO series, and make sure that the public opinion and political outcome are more related to each other than being driven by false information. And we want to be on board for that. We want to make sure that we do a good job with it, and we want to make sure that we inform people of things that are in fact true rather than things that are false, because it is important for us to move forward so we can be more productive, and having false attitudes will slow the production down. We want things to move forward and to grow as fast as it possibly can, and the only way we can do that is to be honest and straightforward with each other when we deal with factual information. And we need to each individual look at what he is promoting and be aware that you do not try to promote things that are only for your benefit, that you are doing the promotion to try to get people to do things that help everyone, not just a specific group of individuals. And we need to move forward with investigating what kind of situations need to be watched over and what kind of situations need to be changed. And I've already talked about the one with Russia, with the war going on in Ukraine, and with Iran and the problem they're having with attacking American boats that are nearby. So what we want to do is to get on board for trying to make these things so that we can now move forward and correct the things that have been made wrong in the past. And as I've said before, when a leader of a country is in control of the situation there and 3 or more people have been murdered, and to be very true, in the Russian situation and in Iran, the number of people that have been murdered are so astronomical that number 3 people are a joke. And it's true that those leaders are no longer the legitimate leaders of the country, and they need to be removed. And there is only one leader that has successfully done what was right, and that leader was Hitler. And what Hitler did was he faked his own death so that he could leave Germany and go to Argentina and live out his life. So we need to know that the effect of what happened was exactly what we want. When leadership changes, everything changed in Germany. Germany went from a land that was destroying other people and other things to a land of manufacturing, and it created wealth for that country as well. And so we need to keep in mind the history that all of us have already experienced and not engage in things that keep us stuck in the mud. We need to move forward with factual information, with AI system that we have with computers now. Many things can be changed, and people can stay on board for doing what's right, not fostering or producing false information. We need to come up with the right answer to be able to be successful, to continue growing economies and prospering. And with that, I'm going to have to terminate this PO number 8, talking about getting behind our thinking and making sure each individual's thinking is true and move forward so we can talk about other issues that need to be dealt with by the world community. And with that, I'm going to say this is the end of PO number 8. I hope to see you in PO number 9. But for now, goodbye for now.